Hello and welcome back to another episode of the Oner podcast, the podcast where we break down and review films all in one big, long, unbroken take. I'm Austin Archer, and with me, as always, is my childhood next door neighbor and lifelong best friend,
Kramer, England.
Kramer England. I am blue. I'm all blue.
You are.
I decided to make the lights blue. I don't have any Fantastic Four clothes, but for some reason, and they don't live in LA, but I'm very LA'd out. Like this shirt is LA,
Oh,
and
nice. Yes.
then my hat is LA 84, but it's kind of like a retro throwback
Yes. I see the
blue vibe.
retro. It fits and it feels very appropriate. Yeah.
Yeah, we are staying for the third week in a row in the superhero world, and we are doing Fantastic Four, the latest entry into the Marvel Cinematic Universe.
Yes.
Okay, as we've been doing lately here on the show, we're going to start off with some spoiler-free thoughts, probably about 10 minutes or so of those. So maybe you're watching the spoiler-free version of the show. If you want to watch our spoiler chat, that'll be on the longer version, which should be out soon. But, what are your general feelings about Fantastic Four with no spoilers, Kramer?
My general feelings are that I really like this movie. I thought it was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
And, we had our predictions, which I said my prediction was that this would be the best Fantastic Four movie by far.
Mhm.
And I believe I was correct.
Right.
Of course,
Not a super high bar to clear.
no,
But yeah.
it's not a high bar at all. The
Mhm.
three that have come before, well, I guess four that have come before it. One was never intended to be released. That was like the 94 version or
Right.
whatever. And then the other two I just didn't care for. And the Josh Trank was also just a kind of a mess. So it wasn't a high bar, but also I am very surprised. I actually really, really enjoyed this movie. It really made me care about the characters. I really loved the setting of, this like retro. I mean, it's kind of funny because I feel like they kind of ripped off the Incredibles, but the Incredibles
Yeah.
ripped off them first. So it's kind of like, well, whatever. We'll just go with it. And I enjoyed it. It wasn't like blatant, but like the car kind of looked, like I like the retro future aspect of it. And I think it was actually structured very, very well. And Galactus I was genuinely surprised at how scary he was and how much I liked his story for the driving force of it all. I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, I think my prediction was similar where I was like, I think if any movie is going to finally sort of crack the cinematic secret code for this super team, it's going to be this one. It just looked like that. But I was like, I don't know if I'm going to love it just because I think I've always just had a hard time finding an access point for these characters. I've just always sort of been like, I think I said in our predictions, I was like, I just find them kind of corny, and I don't. Yeah, and I don't.
I think you said I think they're dweebs or something.
Yeah, yeah. I just am like, it's like the guff that people give me for being a Superman fan. That's how I feel about Fantastic Four fans. Is
Sure.
I'm like them, and but people are like, you like the guy that's like he wears the red, white, and blue, or the red, yellow, and blue suit with the like with the underwear, and he's the strongest guy in the world, and he's got a little curl in his hair. Like how corny. And I'm like, I don't know, fantastic. They're called the Fantastic Four, and like and I. But this definitely unquestionably is the strongest offering that has been a movie that's been made about these characters so far. Lots to really like about this film. There are a lot of comic book fans right now who are very excited about having some back-to-back like really good movies from the two different studios, from DC and from Marvel. Weirdly, I will say my experience with the Fantastic Four was, I think, similar to what a lot of people who had issues with Superman, what their experience was.
Okay.
So like almost all of my criticisms for this film are the same criticisms that you had for Superman and that I see for Superman from a lot of people. Like in general, what people say about Superman when they feel like it didn't quite work for them is that it moved too fast, it was overstuffed, it was edited poorly, in that the editing didn't allow emotional beats to land. That the film never took time to slow down and let characters just have a scene that took its time. And when there was a moment that could be potentially emotionally impactful, the movie kind of moved through it too quickly. Conflicts got resolved too easily. And a lot of the characters, it sort of relies on the audience's pre-existing knowledge of the characters in order to get, like, whether it's like, you know, this, you know who this is,
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
you know their whole deal, right? So we can sort of
Right.
cover it with just like a couple lines of dialogue and you're on the page of this, right? I've heard a lot of people say that that was their experience of watching Superman. And maybe my experience wasn't that with Superman just because I'm so emotionally invested in that world and in those
Right.
stories.
Yeah.
But because I'm not a big Fantastic Four head, that was my experience with this film. Is I was like, man, this movie's moving fast. And anytime I feel like we could have like a conflict going on, like there's like 5 different montages in this film. And
Yeah.
I just was like, okay, we're doing another montage. Like we are,
Yeah.
it just felt like the movie would be like, here's a little scene to explain what we're gonna do in this upcoming montage. Then we're gonna do a montage showing you, you know, as time passing of us doing the thing we explained. We're gonna stop the montage, explain some stuff that happened during the montage, tell you what's going to happen in the next montage, and here we go, montage.
Yeah,
And so
yeah.
I felt like from an editing perspective, I was like, yeah, I think I could have used 2 or 3 fewer montages and maybe just like actually let me
Yeah.
see some of the conflict that arises and some of these
Yes.
things that they're doing within the montages. And those are things that I'll get more detail in as we get into spoiler
Yes.
territory. But all that being said, I'm not a Fantastic Four hater.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
I definitely there's a lot to like about this film. I love the aesthetic of it. I love the costume design. Like
Yes.
I'm kind of obsessed with their costumes. I'm just like,
Right.
this is easily the coolest they've ever looked on screen. Uh
Easily.
yeah, it's like, I don't know, everybody looks great. And I love the production design and
Yep.
I love Michael Giacchino's score. And for the
Oh, I found
most
out, sorry to cut you off. I
oh,
found out his last name, you pronounce it Giacchino.
Giacchino.
Giacchino, Michael Giacchino. I saw, like, one of my coworkers was like, "It's Giacchino," because he anyway,
Good.
and I looked online, and that's how he said Michael Giacchino. Sorry. Go
Good
ahead.
to know. People need to know how to
Yes.
pronounce Denis Villeneuve, and they need to,
Yeah.
you know, because too it's Villeneuve or Dennis
Yeah.
Villeneuve,
Yeah.
Denis Villeneuve,
Denis
and
Villeneuve.
Michael
Yep.
Giacchino. All
Giacchino.
right,
Yep. There we go.
great. And I really think his score is great. I
Yes.
think the
Yep.
cast is fantastic. I think everyone is really well suited to their,
Pun intended or not intended?
sure, pun intended. And I think the visual effects for the most part, really work, you know, especially because
Yeah.
there were questions about this with the trailer. People were like,
Yes. Yeah.
I don't know about that Silver Surfer. She looks maybe just as bad as the one from 2003, maybe
Yeah.
worse. But then when you
Right.
actually get to the final product, it's like, oh, it's a lot more.
Yeah.
There's a
It's a lot
lot
better.
more
Yeah.
texture to that
Yeah.
character than there was in the trailer. And I even think that uh the thing, Iban Mas, whatever,
Baccarat.
Backrack. Oh, I
I
gotta
don't
figure out
know
how
if
to say
it's
his name too.
yeah.
Um, that character I felt looked better in the movie than he did
Yeah.
in the trailer.
Yeah.
And there's a few it's a small handful of shots in the movie that I kind of clocked as being like, nah, that looks a
Yeah.
little weird.
The
But
mostly with the baby
yep,
for
that's what I was
me.
gonna say.
Yeah.
But I was yep. And I guess that's not a spoiler because in the
No,
trailer
it's in
it's
the
revealed
trailer.
that
Yeah. Yeah.
Reed
It's a
Richards,
pretty yeah, they played it up pretty quickly, and yeah, it's a I
yeah,
if that's a spoiler for you, sorry, but it's not a big surprise. It's that
yeah.
the first scene in the movie is talking
Reed
about it.
Richards and Sue Storm are
Yeah.
having a baby. That's a big
Yeah.
plot point in the movie. It's in the trailer. And yeah, and the movie is very much so. I was sitting there the entire time in the theater going, "Oh, so this is what it would look like if Disney did a live action Incredibles." Like
Yes.
100%.
Yeah.
It's I've even heard people compare Superman to the Incredibles. They were like, "Oh, Superman felt like the Incredibles." That kind of
Mm,
spirit of like just fun and colorful and then but this movie I was like, this movie is the
yes.
Incredibles. Like
Yeah.
this
Yeah. It
and
is.
you're right. The Incredibles ripped them off first,
Yes.
and there's very similar, you know,
Yeah.
powers and things like that. With the daughter
Yeah.
doing the kind of the Sue Storm force field, and
Yeah.
Elastigirl being Reed Richards, and
Yeah.
Mr. Incredible being kind
Mm,
of the Thing,
yeah.
and yeah, and then you
Yeah.
kind of switch out Johnny Storm for
Yeah. For the
Dash, and
speedster. Yep.
yeah,
Yeah.
um, but uh, yeah, I think I get why people like this movie,
Yes.
especially fans of these
Yes.
characters. I get why this is going to really, really work for them and really, really be exciting for them. But all of my issues with this film were the thing, and it was I was kind of sitting there going like, so all the people who criticize Superman for this, I actually disagree with those criticisms. I actually think that Superman like slows down and has these moments that really land and like takes its time with certain scenes where it needs to take its time. And
Right.
this movie, I was like, every time a potential conflict arose for these characters that could have been narratively interesting, it was resolved almost as soon as it was introduced for me. It was just kind of like, oh, that's interesting.
Yeah.
How are they going to
Yeah.
deal with that? And like the next moment, they'd be like, I'm just going to say this and it'll be fixed. And it'd be like, oh,
Yep.
okay, that's fixed. All right.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
like, I just felt like everything was solved so easily for them. And again, the fun that Marvel brings to this, that
Yeah.
this aesthetic brings to it, helps endear me to the world and the characters more than I think the Josh Trank aesthetic does.
Oh,
And I
yeah.
never really cared about those early 2000s films.
No.
But yeah, it was interesting because I just was going like all every issue that people have told me they have with Superman, I had with this movie.
Right.
So
They
yeah.
they are very, very similar in like I like them very in many, many ways kind of the same. I probably like Superman a little bit better, but I see exactly what you're talking about. It's funny
Mhm.
though you say that you felt it was too fast because I see what you're saying, but I
Mhm.
actually felt which I guess I kind of feel the same way but in a different way. So I felt that the movie was paced a little too slow in that they really only have two big action sequences that we'll talk about later.
Yep.
But I feel like they should have had another action sequence in there, and I feel like it was because the scenes themselves were just they took a little too long to get to. Now this is a nitpick. This is not the biggest issue, but I just feel like it probably would have been better if they would have started with an action sequence instead of an action sequence montage, and then we could have kind of gotten a feel for the characters from them instead of somebody else talking about them.
It's
So
kind of montage the movie. Like I
yes,
was
yeah,
I was
yeah, yeah,
genuinely kind of surprised at the end of it, like how many montages there were. And you're
right,
right, there's sort of two major action sequences involving the
yes,
whole team, and
right.
they're both pretty entertaining and pretty
Oh
well
yeah, great,
well
yeah,
handled. But it's just like I think that the movie could have fit in a more conflict for these
yes,
characters to
yes,
have
yes, yes, yes,
to work through, and b, more actual visualized character development rather than just sort of like that thing where they just sort of tell you something about the character, and but I don't actually see it taking place
yes,
as an arc throughout the film. And I think you could have fit more of that in if we
yeah,
weren't doing so many montages. And
yeah,
I agree, it's like start the movie because these movies,
yeah.
they start very similarly to each other, where
Oh yeah,
Superman starts
absolutely.
3 years into Superman being Superman in
Yep,
Metropolis, and this starts fittingly 4
4
years
years.
into them being the Fantastic Four. But it's the same idea of like, these characters, the origin story. We're going
Yeah,
to kind of speed run you through that, and we're going to drop you right into the middle of the action. The difference is James Gunn goes, I'm going to start this movie at the first moment that Superman's ever had a problem
right,
in his
right,
career as
right.
Superman. So we're going to start right when the conflict,
Yeah.
like the inciting incident, is the opening thing, is the opening scene of the film.
Yep, yep,
This one sort of gives us a montage of, hey, the Fantastic Four have been around for 4 years, and then it takes we hang out with them for a while
yeah,
before the inciting incident happens, and it's like maybe we
yep,
could use one opening sequence to
yes,
really introduce us to the team at full strength and what they're like
yeah,
before the babies coming into play, and then we can see how the inciting incident and the
yeah,
threat of Galactus changes
yeah.
the dynamic of how they work together
Yeah,
and stuff.
I think honestly, if they would have done that, I would have liked it more than Superman because it would have been like you're saying, it would introduce more conflict. We would get to know the characters a little bit more. Like you can show off who they are, and then from that point you can really get into their arcs. Each one they have to learn. This is kind of their flaw in that scene, and then for the rest of the movie, you can kind of show that off. Or go through that character arc, but I still liked it. It was still fun. Just like you said, I totally see your problems. I can see why people wouldn't totally give into this. But I mean, either way, it's a lot of fun. And
I think it's a good time to be a comic book movie
Yeah.
fan.
Yeah.
I think you're eating well this year between Thunderbolts and Superman and this film. You should be satisfied. Captain America was kind of a letdown.
Yeah.
Or before that, we had Kraven the Hunter.
That movie was so bad.
Oh, by the way, that movie was bad. But it's a nice little like 3-movie streak here for comic book movie fans that you can be excited about. And I think those are our spoiler-free thoughts. It's like, pretty good movie. Go check it out in the theater. It's opening up new threads in the MCU that are interesting and intriguing. And I'm interested to see what they do with these characters.
Me too.